Hello and welcome back, everybody. It's a great pleasure to welcome you now for the next learning session of the Webfest 2021. And I'm really delighted to have with me Anna Ferrari, who is a senior fellow at CERN Open Lab, and she has been working in the medical field. So I know one project that she is working on was detecting Parkinson from wearable devices. Now she's looking into two topics that are really, close to my heart. As a particle physicist at CERN, at Atlas, but also as a co-founder of GluonNet, where we are looking into graph analytics, where we basically take data from all kinds of different organizations and different layers and combine this. It's really interesting to see her proposed challenge. But today, Anna is really focusing on one aspect that is getting short on many hackathons, which is documentation. And it's a very, very important aspect. So even during a hackathon, to document what you have, I think is one of the key things. And so I'm really looking forward to your presentation, Anna. The floor is yours. We're all curious to hear what you can tell us about how in a hackathon we can do quick and efficient documentation.
Okay, thank you very much for your introduction. And yes, exactly. I will try to transfer to you the idea to how to document the code. So if I may share the screen, I will give you some introduction concept. And I would like to present you this software. And this software is Sphinx. And the Sphinx is originally created for documenting Python code. But during the years, Sphinx becomes more and more used, more and more interesting for the community. And other languages have been added. So now with Sphinx, you can document different languages. So for sure, Python, C++, R, PHP, JavaScript, and other languages. What does Sphinx produce is very interesting because Sphinx has many different outputs, which are HTML files, so you are able then to visualize your results and your documentation on a website. And if you have an auth, you can also publish it. And so the community is able to look on your documentation. But also you have an LaTeX format, so you can add your documentation in a paper or in a research, and other kind of outputs such as EPUB. So I would like to show you the website of Sphinx, and in particular, the different names that use Sphinx for their documentation. So here is the web page. There is the documentation, so I invite you to go further and deeper after this presentation. But I really would like to make you see which are the projects that use Sphinx. And Sphinx, I'm sure that you already saw many times Sphinx, because it's very, very used worldwide. And what I would like to show you is a theme that we are going to use. Okay, first of all, this one, the classic theme. Okay, classic theme where you can create your documentation is used by Python 3. So this web page is completely made using Sphinx. So Python, first, as I said, is the language where Sphinx, let's say, growth. But today we are going to use this theme, RTD theme. And for example, Conda is using this kind of theme. So you see that you have a kind of template where you can organize your code or your library or the classes and anything you write. Jupyter Notebook is also using Sphinx, and I'm sure that you already saw this kind of documentation template. And so that's something we simplify in this tutorial, but we will have as well this page made starting with our code. So going back to the slides, yeah, I will go ahead. So as I said, Python is using this documentation, and I wrote in the slide a place where you can deploy your documentation website, and I also wrote down the tutorial I will follow for this presentation. So I will follow these steps. So if you lose something, if you have some problem with your PC, don't worry, I will go through, but you can then see all passages either in my slides or using this tutorial. So let's get started, and I will stop for 1 second to share the slides, and I will share my whole screen because we are going to create a Sphinx project. So first of all, we need the code. Okay, so what I suggest you is to create a folder. Okay, we will use the name of the tutorial, so you can check in the tutorial afterwards. So the tutorial started with this folder, master, called, just let me check 1 second. Okay, it's simple master. Okay, I already have that, so I have to move to bin. Okay, and then I rename this one. Okay, so master is set. Master. Okay, inside this folder, we will create another folder. Simple. And here we are. For proceeding in this tutorial, you need, we will create some Python scripts, and you will need a Python editor. So for example, I'm using VS Code, and I will put this folder in my VS Code, and we will work on this editor. Okay, second step, we need to create the function and the Python code. So first of all, I will do it. For example, we can start with a simple function. For example, sum of two numbers dot py, and we will define the sum of two numbers. So definition, sum of two numbers, and as a parameter we will add a and b, and then this function has to return a plus b. Okay, first of all, we need to document what this function does. So we can, for the documentation in Sphinx, we need to use this notation. So three quotes, so 6 quotes in together. We will add a first description about the function. So the function sums two real or two numbers. We will create, we will say that which are the arguments. So args with this notation, and we will say, okay, A is, for example, float, and is the first number to be added, and B is again float, and is the second number to be added. After the specification of the arguments, we will say what does the function returns. So returns, and here we say returns a float number, and which is the sum between A and B. Keep in mind that we need to specify these the arguments and what does the function return, because we want to have this instruction, this description in our web page. Okay, so we create this function. Of course, we can create other function, but let's start with with one example, and then we can proceed and create our documentation. First of all, we need to install Sphinx. So in your terminal or in your bash, you will write pip install Sphinx. Okay, so you install the application. In my case, I already installed it, so it just say, okay, you already have it. And since we want a specific theme, which is the RTD theme, we will ask to install also this theme. So install Sphinx RTD theme. Like this, yes. And again, I already have in my PC this theme, so I don't need to restore it again. What do we want to do? We want to create also a folder where we will put the documentation. So we have everything in one folder, and we don't confuse the folder of the code with the folder of the code documentation. So I will go in my, through the bash, I will go in my folder, which is in my desktop. So CD desktop simple webmaster. So I'm here. I will create my directory for the documentation. So make dir documentation, and I will go on this folder, in this folder. As you see on the left, is this folder is automatically created, and once I'm in the folder docs, I will ask Sphinx to help me to create the file that I need to deploy and to have the documentation in HTML. So for a web page. So, and how do I do that? I will write Sphinx quick start. If I write everything correctly, yes. So a guided procedure to create the file that I need for the deployment is shown. And so it asks, do you want to separate the directory for sources and build? We say yes. You can try what happens if you say no, but it's how the folder are organized. So my project name, so for Webfest documentation code. Author name, I will put my name, Ferrari. Project release, maybe we start with a 0.0.1. And in language, English is a default, so I don't need to specify. So if this is the procedure that guides us to create the right file for the documentation. And as you see in the doc folder, two other folders have been added: the build folder that is not yet used, and the sources. And here we have some files that we need to deploy our documentation. In particular, first, we have the configuration file. The configuration file has to be a bit modified. So for example, I need to say where is the code. So I will just write that my code is in the folder simple. Okay, I hope I wrote it in the correct way. The simple is the folder where I wrote my function sum of two numbers. And we need, if we want to use the theme that that we discussed, we have to add these. We have to have these. Let me see if I already have it. Yes, we have to change this theme, and we want the Sphinx LTD theme, and then for having a nice property, I also add these two parameters, and we will see what these parameters do. In particular, they will connect our documentation to the source code. So it's a nice property to have. Perfect. And then we can say, we can try to see what happened if we ask Sphinx to make our HTML. So we are in the folder docs always, and we ask, okay, please make HTML. Okay, I have an error. Of course, the theme is not Sphinx by Sphinx. So I have to correct this part. Again, LTD theme, sorry, I have to check if I wrote it correctly. It's probably I exchanged some save. Let me see. Okay, if now it's working, it's working. Okay, what we have as results, we have the files for the creation of the web page. In particular, we have the index HTML. I will open the index HTML in the from the file, and we will see together that we have our index page displayed in our browser, in our local host. Okay, so from here we would like to have something similar like this. Okay, with our team. So for example, this. And we would like to have, for example, the description, a link to our function, the description of our function, etc. So we have to go a bit further with the shell. And we will continue to create this nice documentation. So the next step is to tell to Sphinx where my code is, where my functions are, so that it can create the RST files starting from my Python file that will be displayed in my HTML file. So how to do that? Simply by writing Sphinx api doc -o dot slash source dot source, sorry, dot slash simple. Okay, what does it this command does? This command say, okay, I have my code in the folder simple, and I would like that you produce the files to be displayed in the HTML in the source folder. I remember you that the source folder is one of the folders that we create through the quick start procedure given by Sphinx. Perfect. The answer is, okay, I created two files, which are sum of number and module RST. And this is exactly what we want to display our code in the HTML. If we go in index in these new files that have been created, we will see in a module that we have a sum of numbers. So the Sphinx created this file that says, okay, you know, I want to display your function, which is sum of number. And here we have the references to the function in Python. So the only thing that we need to modify is to put into the index file, the index RST, what we want to display. So we want to display module RST, because module RST contains the references of my function. Okay, once we say we added this module in the index, we don't need to specify RST, the extension. We can see what happened in our web page. So first of all, we clean the make file and we build it again. Make clean, make HTML. Let's see if there are any difference. Okay, so here, before we were here, welcome to the Webfest documentation without anything. I mean, with index tables, which are default part that are shown from Sphinx. And here is the new one, the updated one, and we have exactly what we wanted. So we have that in Simplable. We have this sum of number module, which is a function for Python. Okay, here, as you see, we find again what we specify in the function. So the arguments, what does the function return, and the name of the function. If we click on source, we can see the whole function. Briefly, since my time is flying, you can work on this index file, and you can add several parts. For example, imagine that you want create an introduction and to explain what does your module or your library is about. You can always add new RST files, which are files about the description. You just add, as said, for example, an introduction, intro, for example, RST. In the introduction, you might want to add a title, so introduction. The title is displayed by using this equal under the main name, and maybe you want to see this is the introduction of my Python library, for example. Then you want some subchapter, motivation, for example. Motivation. Okay, if it's a subchapter, you use this symbol to differentiate from introduction for the main title, and you can write the motivation. I am very motivated to document my code. Let's save it. And of course we have to add this introduction to my index, and I will add it here, introduction. Okay, I just need to write the name of the file. Let's see if everything is understood from Sphinx. So I clean my make file and I do again my HTML. Everything went good. And so I can go to the index HTML. Okay, as you see here, since I put introduction under these 3 lines, I have it in the contents part, but of course I can, maybe I want to have an introduction before I display the code. Then I just need to put it above and ask again to create the HTML, sorry. Intro, okay, maybe we need, let me check if it's this. Is this the problem? Unless we need to create a doc. Okay. Now, so sorry for that. We need to sorry, we need to recreate this structure and write here introduction, the caption of this structure. So again, HTML, okay, everything went perfectly. And here we will see the introduction and the different arguments. Okay, introduction, here is the introduction by Python library and motivation. Okay, for sure, I encourage you to go a bit deeper on how you can document your code. And I will send you the slides and the link to follow the tutorial for that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Anna. It was really, really nice. And also for me, I think it was very, very helpful. I think for our participants, I think it gives a really nice intro in how to make documentation, even if you have very, very limited time, like in a hackathon. One thing that I would say you as participants is, if you have done any documentation at your project, mention it also in your project description at the end. The judges are well aware that there's really, really tiny little amount of time available, but they really like this aspect if you take also a tiny little bit of time and document nicely what you have done. So mention it clearly in your application if you had the time to put some documentation, maybe with Sphinx, into your project. Thanks a lot, Anna. That was really great. And I think the next session we will have is at 4 o'clock, the stretching. See you then.
Thank you.
Back on. See you. Bye.
Bye.